First of all, welcome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Growth Masterclass, brought to you by MoEngage and in partnership with AppsFlyer. Can everyone hear me well? Just give me a thumbs up. Panelists, all good? All good. Great. So first off, let me introduce myself. My name is Tala, and I am an engagement manager from Southeast Asia, of course, coming from MoEngage. So thank you all for joining in. I'm absolutely delighted to let you know that we have seen terrific response so far with more than 1,200 people who have registered from countries like Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, and many more. So as you know, as our first topic for today's masterclass is how to maximize retention through a great onboarding experience. So you can see it very well on the screens right now. So more or less our topic would be mostly on onboarding. So to address this topic in depth, we have divided this masterclass actually into two segments. So the first segment, it will be with our panel discussion for 30 minutes. We have a very exciting panel of speakers from leading consumer brands. So people like Erwin Handono, the head of marketing at Bibit. And then we also have Bryan, CMO at KoinWorks, Vanessa Gunawan, growth marketing lead at Tokopedia, our very own Kshitij Hastu, Senior Director at Growth at MoEngage, and of course, Almer Putra, Senior Customer Success Manager at AppsFlyer. So this is going to be a very, very good discussion about onboarding best practices. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A window, and we will try to take them up, and we will be running also live polls. So when you see it flashing on your screen, do pop in your inputs. Before we get to the discussion, I'd like to give our panel of speakers some time to introduce themselves. Ladies first, go ahead, Vanessa.
Hi everyone. I'm Vanessa and I'm the growth marketing lead at Tokopedia. And if you guys don't know, Tokopedia is one of the leading e-commerce platforms in Indonesia. And my team and I's job is basically to help with the marketing communication journeys for new buyers at Tokopedia. And I'm excited to be here, so I hope you guys learn a little something.
All right. Erwin, shall you go next?
Hi, thanks, Tala. Hi, everyone. My name is Erwin. I am the head of marketing of Bibit. Bibit itself is a robo-advisory platform. We help people to invest in mutual funds product in Indonesia.
All right, cool. Jonathan, go ahead.
Hello. My name is Jonathan. I'm the CMO of KoinWorks. So we are a super financial app in Indonesia. So we really democratizing all the finance thingy in Indonesia, making sure that every one of us can use it very easily. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. Almer, please.
Hello, I'm Almer. I am a customer success manager in AppsFlyer. We are the market leader for the mobile marketing attribution, and we are happy to provide insights and information of the true value of your user.
Great, thank you, Almer. Hastu?
Hey, hello everyone. I'm Hastu and I lead the growth efforts for us here at MoEngage across Southeast Asia and ANZ regions, of course, working with some amazing brands that we have on the panel here as well, like Tokopedia and Bibit. Essentially, what I do is work with our customers and work with some of the leading consumer brands in the region, helping them improve the customer experiences that they deliver through our intelligent customer engagement platform.
All right, thank you for that, Hastu. So just to also inform everyone of the flow for this growth masterclass, the first session again is going to be the panel discussion, and then another session afterwards will be on a hands-on session, which will be led by Hastu, the one who introduced just now. It will be a deep dive into key onboarding concepts and show you how you can craft an intelligent onboarding journey, measure the right metrics, and understand your users better. So this is going to be a very action-packed masterclass. But for now, let's get started with our panel. And I can start the ball rolling with a discussion. All right. So on discussing on user onboarding. So what we'd like to share is user onboarding. Going to user onboarding, right? It's a make or break. We all know it's a make or break. It's the first touch with your users, essentially, right? So user onboarding typically varies from product to product, or even user to user, right? Depending on a number of factors, as you may know. But in your experience, what do you think makes a great onboarding experience, and how would you define its goals? So just a general question to everyone to get this started, right? Again, probably I'll start with you, Vanessa, as the rose on the thorns here. So go ahead, Vanessa.
Okay, thank you, Tala. I think first you gotta understand who your customers are and why they're coming to your platform, and then you gotta think about like how you're gonna convey that we have what you need. And I think the way you convey that is through three simple things, which is simplicity. You have to be cohesive with your message and also clear and easy, so that the users can get to go to where they want to go easily, right? So simplicity, by that I mean like we want to eliminate as many barriers to them achieving their goal in our platform as possible. So you want to ask them as little questions as possible in the beginning, and you want to make sure that it's a seamless process for them. And then cohesiveness, by that I mean that your message across your app, your emails, your push notifications, your ads should all convey one message, and it should be simple and clear, so that it doesn't confuse the users. And then lastly, it should be easy for them to get to where they want to go. So for example, if we send them a welcome email that asks them to check out these latest best-selling items, they should be able to click that email to go to a landing page where it's all full of product recommendations, and they can easily check out those items and buy it. So the goal for this whole experience is basically to make sure that they have a very delightful experience in the platform, that they want to come back for more.
Got it. Wonderful. Thank you for that, Vanessa. So the point there coming from Tokopedia is for the user to have a delightful experience and a very like straight to the point experience on what you want them to do, on the action item that you want them to do. Great. So going to Jonathan, what can you share in terms of that?
So for us in KoinWorks, we saw that a great onboarding process or experience is basically that we're trying to placing carrots in every single place where we want the users to be, because we need to know what is the carrots. We need to know where to put the carrots. So that way we guide them through all the experience that they want. So on our side, basically in KoinWorks, yeah, back then we were a very new industry and we started the P2P lending. So goal is very depends on the product itself. So for us, we want the users to finish the full cycle as fast as possible. The full cycle means that we want them to register, deposit, check out, and get the repayment. And from that, they know that the carrot is always about they get a yield out of their investment. So that's how we make the goals. Once they have the yield on the first place, we can make them repeat. So that's the first thing we want them to do. And I guess now it's becoming more advanced. We want them to have more diversifications, to increase yield. So every single type of users or every single segment, we split on the goals. We want to make sure that each of the users have their own goals and they can achieve it through the carrots that we place all over the place.
Interesting analogy, Jonathan, when you said about the carrots, right? It's a very interesting way on how to express that user onboarding journey. It's just very true and relatable. Going to Bibit with Erwin. So just to also before you start, I understand Bibit and like let's as a BFSI, right? It's a entirely different journey as I would say for something like a Tokopedia, an e-commerce. So very interesting insights probably from Erwin. Yes, go ahead please on your onboarding.
Okay. So I think the key to onboarding in our site is that actually personalized experience for the users. Like for example, in our industry, there are thousands of mutual funds products. And as you know, like only 1% of people in Indonesia is actually investing in stock market. So we can say like 99% of them is actually newbie. Can you imagine that a newbie and then enter the stock market and they saw like thousands of products? It gets confused. That's why in our case, personalization is very important. That's why we use the like robot advisory platform technology to actually help the users like what is their risk profile based on their answers to our questionnaire, and then we'll give them like personalized recommendation based on their risk profile. For example, like if you are an aggressive investor, maybe like 70% of your money will go to stocks, and then the rest will go to money market fund and bond fund, for example. And other than that, I think it's very important for us in terms of communication, meaning that some people are doing like, for example, like over-promising something to the users, but then when they get to the app, it doesn't deliver. I mean, it's something that we want to prevent because I think the key to our industry in terms of finance is actually trust. That's why on how to manage expectation between users and also the app itself is very important. And I think the rest is actually a competition between like time to value, meaning how long does it take for the users to actually get the value from your product. I think if you can get faster than anybody else, I think you can win the game itself.
Got it. Thank you. Wonderful insights on trust, especially for a finance app. That is really truly the main point there. Now, I just want to take a step back and probably going to next to Almer, coming from a perspective from AppsFlyer, which you handle so many apps, may it be e-commerce, may it be finance, so many apps, right? So, what is your take on this, Almer?
So actually, like I have quite similar opinion with Erwin, actually personal experience, but I would like to take it more further. So I like to call it like relevancy. So it's actually important to deliver the relevant experience based on your marketing messaging, your promotion messaging, right? Because maybe a lot of people think that onboarding process only starts when the user downloads your app, but actually the onboarding starts when your brand, your business engage with the customer, with the potential user, right? It could be ads, it could be some content in your website, it could be something that you post on social media, right? So for example, like this, let's say you have a user who download your app because seeing of specific content. Let's say e-commerce or maybe travel app with a lot of SKU, a lot of products. When the user download and open the app, they are expecting to see the exact same content, right? Imagine that if you don't have to search all over again, when you download and you see it, the same exact content, it means that you are removing the friction. You are a barrier for the user to actually start getting value from your business, right? Or even let's say you are promoting like promo code, like voucher code, then the user might expect that the code might be auto-applied during the checkout, right? So this kind of experience, relevant experience, is actually like improving the whole onboarding process, right? It's removing the barrier, and definitely like you can see every KPI will improve. Time to sign up, time to first purchase, right? Which is, I think this is one of the most important element for onboarding experience.
Thank you for that, Albert. Very interesting insights as well on like what you mentioned on relevancy. And I think I agree that when you say onboarding is not only when the user installs the app, it's really when you get to engage in the business side of things. So in line with that, talking about engagement, I think Hastu is the right person here. So go ahead, Hastu. What's your take?
Yeah, no, I think very, very well covered by everybody before me. So I don't think there's anything more I can add. But yeah, I think I agree with everyone, right? And especially what Vanessa said about it being simple. I think some of the best onboarding journeys I've seen are the simplest ones, are the ones that remove the complications for me to do that action that I downloaded the app for. I downloaded the app to buy shoes, for example. What's the quickest way for me to buy those shoes? And that ties into Erwin's concept as well of time to value, because to me, the value was the shoes that I clicked an ad for. So I think it's very important to keep it simple, very important to make sure that you understand the context to why am I here in the first place, and just make it as easy as you possibly can for me to see that value that I downloaded the app for. But yeah, in total agreement with everybody else on this.
Yes. Very much. We're on the same page. So to get deeper, to dive deeper first with like on the finance side of things with Erwin and Jonathan, can you help us understand the user onboarding journey at Bibit and KoinWorks, and also like what do you think are the key milestones or wow moments, so to speak, in your onboarding journey? Maybe Erwin, you can start.
Okay. So yeah, I think our onboarding process is start from like our upper funnel, starting for our advertising and also organic campaign. Like for example, at that stage, we only focus on how to get them excited to actually download the app. So we don't promise something like many players like doing like for example, invest in here, you can get like up to 20% something. We never do that. So
Okay.
what we do is actually just get them excited, like what is the value they get from our app, and then after that, we actually try to do consistent messaging from upper funnel to lower funnel. So yes, there are a lot of confusion from users. Like for example, we have this Telegram group. So we use like Telegram group. It consists like I think almost 100K users in our Telegram group, and then every day they give like feedback to us. And then by doing that, we can actually get the pain points of the users. And after that, I think we can like systemize which actually the most important thing we need to tackle. So I think like the process itself, like for example, at the beginning, they download the app and then they will fill like questionnaire, as I said before. And after that, they'll get like a risk profile. Like for example, you are aggressive, you are moderate, or you are conservative investor. And after that, they'll get like a recommendation which product that suit you. And after that, it's very simple. You just click like invest now, and then you pay with like GoPay or LinkAja or virtual account. So it's very convenient for the users. Like for example, in like a year ago, paying investment product with GoPay or LinkAja is not something that common. But then I think we are the first one who's actually partnering with GoPay, and then the rest is actually following us. Yeah, I think this process of onboarding in our app is pretty simple and personalized.
Thank you for that, Erwin. Just to add as well, yes, you're right. I mean, like maybe like 5-10 years ago, you wouldn't imagine buying stocks with something like GoPay. So indeed, Bibit is pioneering on that front. Jonathan, how does this work for KoinWorks?
So for KoinWorks, I guess I totally agree with Erwin, which is you provide a lot of excitements, which in KoinWorks is vice versa. We provide them on the experience itself. We provide them what is KoinWorks, because back then it was a very new industry, right? It was a P2P lending. No one knows what is P2P lending. Even when we started, not even OJK or the authorities are having regulation out of it. We just when we started our first year, it was unregulated. So trust is really the big issues back then. We are usually they said like investasi bodong back then, because the yield that you can get out of KoinWorks is pretty high, but there's something on the back which you don't know. There's a platform on it. So we want them to have all the experience first. We want them to feel like you're playing in a game, right? So you have like a ground quest. So you need to click on the loans. You need to click on the check on the borrowers, who are they, check how much they can put in deposits and everything. So that's the key milestone we want them to have. Then the wow factor, basically what we did back then is that because we know we wanted to build our emphasis based on experience, so we call them coins. So coins is basically our marketing money, where we use to give like it's one-to-one to your cash. You can do investment out of that coin, but whenever there is a repayment, that coin, the principal of that coin backs to KoinWorks, but the interest part, it goes to the customer. So basically, we're gonna do a recycle of that exact cash burn to gain more customer on subsequently. So we can use this 1 million. So back then we use like 1 million per customer. Then 1 million when they use it, then it's going to be recycled in 1 year. We can use that exact funds to acquire more users. So it's becoming a very efficient and a very low cost cash burn. So yeah, the wow moment is basically the coin and then get the first repayment. You know how much is, and it's real money. So that's why we wanted to tackle the investasi bodong back then. So showing that you can get real money out of KoinWorks.
Going back to the discussion, for Almer now, I want to ask from Almer's end, as you're working with a lot of brands, how do you think, how should brands identify their wow moments? So for Jonathan, it was more on the coins, and for Erwin again, it was more on matching the user with their product, right? So what do you think for you is a wow moments on or their onboarding hooks, and what indicators must you look at?
Okay. So basically, like I think every business want to find out their wow moment, right? And this is really important. But I think first of all, like with the current nowadays, I think the only ways to find out your wow moment is to experiment. And basically, first of all, the brand, the business will need to know first, like what kind of wow moment in which state they are looking for. Is it onboarding? Is it the value delivery, or which state? I mean, like, first of all, they will need to use user segmentation first. They need to know which user belong to which bucket, right? Because definitely this will impact later on because every person, every segment will require different kind of treatment. And after that, we are talking about value proposition. Different segment require different treatment, right? And definitely maybe there are some segment that require more incentive. There are other segment that require different. And from there, it's about the execution, right? From there, basically, you can get the result. Actually, is your hypothesis is correct or not? Is this the wow moment are you looking for or not, right? And even after that, it doesn't mean like the whole process is done. No, is finding out wow moment is actually an ongoing process. It's a continued process, right? Later on, you will test again. Is the past hypothesis is still true or not? Are you getting incrementality or not? And definitely, it's different by business or by app, but basically, your key metrics that important to your business will be a good indicator, right? Time to first sign up, or maybe I think for finance, especially time to the KYC process is very important. So it's again, it's different on each business.
Got it, got it. Thank you, thank you. So, based on that, right? Basically, there's no single thing that works for everyone. Like, so you need to really do trial and error and testings on what works. So, Vanessa, can you tell us about this? I mean, as you know, a one size fits all approach for onboarding is obviously not a great practice, as we have heard from our panel of speakers as well. So you have to customize the onboarding experience based on a user's needs. So can you give us examples on how Tokopedia achieves that?
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to try to answer your question in a marketing communications perspective. So when a user comes to our app and they're new, right, we don't really know much about them because at first in the onboarding, we don't ask them a lot of questions to begin with. So then we try to use as little info that we have on them to create a tailored experience for them. So for example, in Tokopedia, you can either sign up as a buyer, a seller, or as a Mitra Tokopedia, which is like a Tokopedia partner. So then the onboarding experience for them in terms of marketing communications will be kind of different. So for a buyer, we would send them communications on, Tokopedia USP, new buyer promotions, best-selling items in Tokopedia and things like that. But then for a seller, it'll be completely different, right? We would send them communications on how to set up your shop, how to use the tools that we have to increase visibility in your stores and get more buyers. So it's a completely different onboarding experience. And then those are more like generic messages on like buyer types or like user types. But then we try to get these users to interact more with our app as well to get more data points on them. So for example, for a buyer, we try to get them to click on a product. So that way we know what kind of products they're interested in or what kind of categories they're interested in. And from there, we can then send them more personalized messages and promotions and recommendations so that they're more likely to interact with us. So that's, I think, how we get a more tailored experience eventually.
Right. Wow. That's actually very interesting. I mean, it's an interesting approach wherein you don't like the first part where because a lot of marketers make assume that most of the campaigns are promotional. They just send promos, 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 promos. And it's an interesting thing that you mentioned, like for a partner, you would send them tips, you'd send them how to set up the shop. And for even for a buyer, you're not just sending them promos, promos, promos. You're just telling them about the product. So it's kind of a mix of these things. And then that's when you like target them when you know more about them. That is very, very interesting. So getting your thoughts on this has to what data or insights about your customers should you already have before designing an onboarding journey, and why is this data critical, and how do you think brands should use it?
Right. I think as much data as you can. That's the simple answer to this. As much as you can get about the user, use all of it, right? But no, I think at a base level, it's important, of course, depending on the industry, to understand, is this an existing customer that's just started to explore your app experience, or is it a fresh customer altogether? And for a lot of industries like retail, for a lot of industries, even like e-commerce, I might have had prior interactions with your brand offline, or I might have had interactions with your brand on the website. And now I've come to your mobile app for the first time. So in that case, knowing my buying behavior, knowing what categories I've been interested in, and basically all of my historical purchasing and behavioral data is important, because that's going to decide what do you nudge me towards. If I'm a fresh user, it's important to know where have I come from, what city I'm in, if you know anything about my demography, my gender, age, etc. What ad did I click on? And I think that's one of the most important things. Why am I here is a very important data point to understand, to really craft that customer experience in user journey. But I think apart from that, it's also important to know, like Jonathan said, what's your aha moment, right? Because that's what you're trying to nudge the user towards. For your app, what is that key value that's differentiating you? And that's something that a lot of historical data can also provide you. You know that, for example, 4 transactions in, the chances of this user uninstalling the app is less than 10%. So you know you need to get them to that 4 transaction mark, or complete watching one season, or invest X amount of money depending on their age and city, etc. So again, as much data as you can get, and as much combination of that data as you can draw, but very important to know at least the basics of who they are, where they're coming from, and why are they here in the first place.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Hastu. So as we're discussing about like data gathering, right? So I just want to circle back to Jonathan. Like a while ago, we mentioned something on trust, right? Because as we know, we want to gather as much data from our users as possible. But of course, for fintech apps, building trust in the initial days is extremely critical. And as you're expecting users to share sensitive data, which is expected. What do you think are the key levers to build trust fast?
I guess what we have back then was so in KoinWorks, yeah, we learned a lot about this financial thinking trust, yeah, because when I built the marketing team in KoinWorks, we always hire from non-finance person. So the trust in finance is becoming apparently new for each of us. Then something that we learn, yeah, to build the trust. So trust is earned by a few other means. So some is internal and some is external. So the external wise is regulation is one of the key factor in finance. Regulation means that OJK. That's why we push ourselves always to make sure that we are in the front seat of OJK regulations. We are the first one that will be registered in OJK. That really give us a leverage of trust back then. Then two is about word of mouth. Word of mouth is always talks about the experience, so that's why the onboarding, the carrots, the wow moment is very important. We need to know what they need in terms of their investment. What is the lack? What is the problems that is happening on the market? So we know that when P2P comes in back then in Indonesia, some P2Ps are only offering so much high amount to begin with. So KoinWorks, we put it as low as much possible so they can diversify. It means diversifying. We learned that coming from US, coming from India, China market in P2P, diversify is the only way for you to survive in investment. So that's what is something that we built to earn their trust. Meaning, when they get the yield, they trust us. It's very simple Indonesian thing. Even if we are a good company, but you play it wrong, you don't earn the trust. So the experience is not only experience, it's always a good experience. So other way around is that the one that we learn is all about transparency. We need to show what we do on the back. We need to show who do you invest to, who's the borrowers, who's the investment, who is investing in us. So that transparency becoming one of our set of data that we can share to the customers. So we that's very easy. I guess all startups should have it. Then the third part, I guess this is one the growth strategy that we built back then is piggybacking. So KoinWorks back then was a startup. We started 2015. So that time we piggyback with the big brands like Lazada. We work together with Lazada to serve their merchant financing. Then yes, we work together also with Tokopedia. Now we are the number one lending providers for all those merchants in most of the big e-commerce. So our name is also becoming big because we piggyback with the big merchants, with the big startups. So that's how we rank up. Then once we have those power, or at least we are big enough, then we can colonize those smaller startups to make sure that they can give us the right acquisition. So I guess the trust is something that we really can earn as either external or your internal factor.
Interesting, Jonathan. Thank you, thank you. I think one key point I got from what you've mentioned is that on the transparency part, and I think that transparency goes hand in hand with trust, and it's not only applicable for a financial company, but I think it's applicable for all brands. May it be an e-commerce, a travel app, or whatever brand. That's how I think you would gain trust from a consumer perspective, is on the transparency part. So on average, right? So again, going to also Vanessa and Erwin on this, just to continue it. On average, apps lose about 77% of their DAUs within the first 3 days, which is quite fast. 77% within 3 days. So can you talk to us about what have been the key challenges for you in reducing your churn in your onboarding process first? And also, like, what experiments, as you mentioned, we always do experiments, testings, etc. So what are these experiments or interventions have you run to reduce churn and that has worked well? So can you share to us something there? Maybe Erwin, you can start.
Okay. So at the beginning, I think the problem is always about trust in finance. And second one is actually that people have no idea what's actually mutual funds. Like as I said, like only 1% people is actually investing in mutual funds. They know about gold and maybe like other stuff, but then it's quite hard for us to actually, like to educate them in the simplest way to understand what's the concept of mutual funds. I think that's the key challenges for us. Like people have no idea about it, and second one is actually people don't trust the product. Because as Jonathan mentioned, like there are a lot of like like investasi bodong wherever in Indonesia. So in order to do that, we do several experiments. Like yes, we do a lot of experiments within the product, but then we see that our product is actually better than anyone else, and we see that the onboarding process is actually quite good. But then what we do actually experimenting on the branding side, on how to increase the trust of the people through branding. Like for example, there is a research that says that a lot of people is actually do investing because of their friends and family. So that's why what we see is that if we treat the users right, so we have like almost 24/7 customer services. So people can ask anything to us, like there is a financial advisors that answer all the questions from the users. And also we have like incentive program like a referral campaign. So they can share the referral code to their friends, to their families, and by doing that, our conversion like from people that register to the app and then do the purchase is actually increasing. And also we do a lot of influencers and also like full funnel marketing. Like for example, if you search Bibit, you see a lot of like review Bibit from our users. I think there are there are 100 or maybe 1,000 videos. And if you do search in Google, there are also a lot of review. I think branding in this case is actually very important. Yes, product onboarding is very important, but then on how we deliver the narrative that we care about the users, that we have the mission to actually helping people to start investing in Indonesia is actually pretty important. And you can deliver it either through their friends, family, or maybe like influencers, someone they trust.
Got it. Thank you, Erwin. Interesting insights again on how it actually works, right? Like, what is the test being done? Going to Vanessa, can you share us like one case of where you were successful in reducing churn for onboarding?
Yeah, so for Tokopedia, I think from a marketing communications perspective, I think the challenge for us is how do you like send communication to users to get them to interact with you and interact with your app without being too spammy, right? So we're still trying to figure that out, and we do a lot of like experiments, mostly around delivery rate, timing, content, and also landing pages. So for example, on delivery rate, what we recently did was try to evaluate again our settings. So on our specifically push notifications. So we want to make sure that, users who are supposed to receive our communications actually do, right? This means that, we use tools such as the one MoEngage has, which is like push amplifications that, I think can increase delivery rates up to 7%. And then we try to change our settings of do not disturb timing, frequency capping, and also minimum delay between messages. And by changing those kind of settings, we are able to increase our delivery rates by 10%. So that helped a lot in getting us first to get our messages across to our users. And then once we already do that, we start experimenting on timing again. This is also pretty interesting because we used to spread out our onboarding communications up to 7 days after a user registers, but we see that in the first day they would have click rates up to 6%, which is pretty high, and then up to the 7th day it will be close to 0, right? So we try to kind of shift our messaging to be more aggressive in the first 3 days to make sure that we are able to get them to interact with our app, our products, and so that we can send them more contextualized messages, and that would help them, interact more with our app. And then also we did experimentations on content and landing pages, and usually on those, we try to make sure that our content and landing pages are in sync. They're full of things that the users would be interested in, like the best-selling item products, full of new user coupons, especially crafted just for them. And that's how we get them to, stay in our app and interact with our app.
Nice. Great sharing. So actually, I'm also like working with Tokopedia in the background for that, as you know, for the experiment that you did for the D&Ds, etc. Because we did have that problem statement, and just to share as well, I think it's also part of the risk taking of the app, because the D&D part, especially the do not disturb part, for most of the apps, it's always like a default 10 o'clock. We don't send you any messages, and I think Tokopedia took a risk there. Okay, let's try sending messages at 11 and 12 and see what would happen, right? So you need to be also a little riskier and see what happens, right? So just on the experimenting part. So actually, guys, we wrapped up our discussion. I'll just take one question from the Q&A. From our audience here. One interesting question as well from Sean Teo. So he has asked, how has your onboarding campaigns changed since the start of the COVID-19 outbreak? So probably Almer, do you have anything from your end on that side, and any thoughts on that? Or and then maybe Vanessa, if you can share some insights on that as well, if anything has changed post COVID.
Okay, so basically, like, I think what I'm seeing during the COVID situation right now, I think there are a lot of brands that actually reducing their marketing budget, their marketing activity, right? So what I'm seeing right now is actually a shift in how the brands actually utilizing their marketing, how they do marketing. So for example, I think a lot of brands, especially maybe the one that get impacted a lot, they're moving their brand from ads towards own media, which is maybe they are more leveraging more on the website, they are leveraging more on the social media posts, which is basically, we can say there is zero budget behind it, right? So that's one thing that I can see from this situation right now.
All right, thank you, Almer. Vanessa, anything you'd like to add there? Because I see like for something like Tokopedia, I mean, ironically, you guys are rocking the pandemic. So anything you can share from that end?
Yeah, so I think overall as Tokopedia, we've had many campaigns that are directed towards like helping people during these tough times. Specifically for marketing communications, I think we try to tailor our messaging to be more towards like, thank you for shopping with us. Thank you for staying safe at home and avoiding, going to the shops. So that kind of like contextual messaging is something that we try to apply across our marketing communication so that we get users to engage more during this time.
Got it, got it. So thank you, everyone. Thank you all for your time. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Almer, for your thoughts. Erwin, Jonathan. So we're done with our panel discussion. And for the next session, we will be proceeding with Hastu, and he will talk to us about the best practices and how we actually implement these learnings. Right? Over to you, Hastu.
All right, thank you. I'm just figuring out how to share my screen, so give me a second with this.
All right.
All right, here we are. Cool. So let's move on to the next session, which is basically a quick walkthrough of what does it take to improve your customer onboarding, right? So I'm gonna try to take the next 20 minutes. I know we had 30 scheduled, but we're a little over time, so I'm gonna go a little quicker. But the goal of the next 20-25 minutes is to talk about how do you improve your customer onboarding and how do you improve your customer experience in their first few interactions with your app and with your brand. Now, before that, I'll just tell you a little bit about MoEngage again and where we come in. So we're essentially a intelligent customer engagement platform that helps our customers and brands globally analyze their user behavior better, identify trends and opportunities through the platform, use that data to segment users based on who the users are, what they need, and where they are, be it on the app, be it digitally or even out in the physical world. And then, of course, engage with them across channels like push notifications, emails, SMSs, WhatsApps, and a bunch of other channels that you can plug in. And of course, all of these engagements and communications are completely personalized. So that's who we are. Now, that's something that we've been doing for brands like Tokopedia here, of course, Park, Bibit, MAP, Blibli, CityLink, Oyo. So there's a lot of very interesting brands that you'll see across the region that have been making the most of the MoEngage platform. Now, jumping right into what we're talking about today and what we're going to be doing here is we're talking about an introduction to customer onboarding itself. So we're going to try to understand why customer onboarding is important and what are the basic elements to this whole thing. Measuring your current onboarding process and how do you analyze what you're doing and basically find gaps and opportunities there, and building a data-driven onboarding journey from there. So let's start with an introduction and let's start with why is customer onboarding so important? And that's in the numbers. What we see is 3 out of 4 new app users actually uninstall your app within the first 90 days. So while a lot of brands spend a lot of dollars on acquiring new customers, you also need to keep in mind that you're losing 3 out of 4 of them within the first 90 days. So your actual cost of an install might be $1, but your cost of retaining that customer beyond 90 days is actually $4. So your spend is way higher than you're calculating if you just look at acquisition alone. So it's important to couple your retention strategy along really couple your onboarding strategy along with your acquisition. Now, and as you'll see here itself, right, in your entire customer lifecycle management, while acquisitions number one, uh, you really don't have a customer until activation. And what's right in between is the onboarding step. So getting your users from installing the app to actually logging in, signing up, or making that first interaction, first meaningful interaction with your app, that's where the onboarding experience becomes really important. And to get your user to that zen state of loyalty, you need to make sure that you're onboarding them as well as you can. And to do that, there's a few basics, right? There's a few basics that, of course, everybody on the panel spoke about already. So this is more of a recap than anything else. But it's important to have a clean, simple, and straightforward sign up and welcome process, making sure that users, once they land on your app, it's a simple process for them to sign up, and it's a simple process for them to make that first interaction. And this is something that can be done through tutorials and educational series. And the same tutorials and educational series can be extended to improving app and feature discovery, helping people understand that the value that your app provides isn't just that one feature, functionality, or product, but actually extends wider than what the user might be using you for today. And that's where your featured tips and tricks become very important, analyzing what parts of the app the user is using more often and pointing them towards easier ways to get to that product discovery, really. Interactive walkthroughs, I mean, they're a great way, again, of walking somebody through how to interact with your app, how to reach that sort of product or solution that they're looking for quicker and easier. Doing progress checks, I think that's a great way, and really just combining that with gamification. And that gamification bit is something that I think Jonathan spoke about a lot earlier as well, is placing those carrots. So combining your progress checks with celebrating uh, those achievements, that's important. Celebrating your first purchase, celebrating your first interaction, celebrating your fifth interaction, because that may be your aha moment and you want to congratulate the user for getting there. All of these are very important components of a good user flow and an onboarding journey, really. Now, now that we know why it's important, because you don't want to lose 3 out of your 4 customers within the first 90 days, how do you really take stock of where you are? How do you analyze what are you doing today, and how do you use that to really optimize your efforts going forward? Um, so when you are looking at your user onboarding, it's important to focus on some key KPIs. And if I were to name some of them, I'd say your day 0, 7, and day 30 retention and churn rates are very, very important. It's important for you to know how many people are you losing on day 1, on day 7, and day 30, and basically everything in between even, and your ability to retain users beyond that point. Goal completion rate, again, that goes to talk about has the user seen the value from your app? Because that goal, it could be your first purchase, it could be KYC completion, it could be first transaction, first season that you've completed watching. Identifying and tracking how many of your users actually reach that goal, again, a very important metric to track. And how long is it taking you to get there? Is it happening on day 1, day 7, day 30, day 90? It's important to know that time to value as well. And the net promoter score tells you how happy were your users getting to that value. So some of the key KPIs for you to look at. And funnel analytics is one of the more interesting and sort of simpler ways to do this. Now, what a funnel analysis allows you to do is analyze your users' behavior at each step, right? Now, for me to get to my first purchase on an e-commerce application is probably going to involve 4 to 5 steps. And each step that a user needs to go through to reach that meaningful interaction is a drop off point. So, analyzing those drop off points and analyzing uh, how users are dropping off at each step, how long they're taking to get from one step to the next, and comparing those cohorts is very important, because that's when you know that as soon as you asked users for their phone number, a lot of them dropped off. So now you know that asking them for the phone number at that point was your problem. So you want to maybe rejig that a little bit. And just to show you the sort of insights, or just to show you how easy something like this can be to set up, I am going to jump into the platform. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the platform to show you how easy something like funnels can be to set up. And I'll take an e-commerce example over here. I'm going to say, how many people installed my app, opened it as my step 2, viewed a product is my step 3, added that product to cart is my step 4, and completed that order. Now, as you see here, there's 5 steps that somebody needs to complete in order to successfully make their first meaningful interaction. And each step being a drop-off point. What funnel analysis can really help you see is, while there were about 11,600 people who installed your app, you actually lost 2% at just opening it. So 2% of the people installed the app but never actually opened it. You lost another 34% from opening the app to actually looking at the product, another 57 from looking at the product and adding that to cart, and a further 32% from add to cart to order successful. So it's important for you to know what points are people dropping off, and then segment them accordingly, or create campaigns to retarget them and bring them back into the fold accordingly. So funnels can be really important for you to really understand what are the points of friction and points of drop off for your app. Now, moving forward, while now that you've understood funnels, you understood the drop-off points, it's also important to understand your cohorts. And cohorts essentially is just creating a subset of users to understand their shared characteristics. And usually how your cohort analysis would work is, from the date of acquisition of a user, how long have you been able to retain them? That's the primary question that this answers. So this can help you see that people that you've acquired on a certain day, how long are they sticking around? How long does it take for them to make that first sign up? What percentage of users visited the app and actually came back to buy the product, and how long that took? Now, this can also help you answer a few more questions, like the users that I acquired from Facebook, how long are they taking to make that first meaningful interaction? And are they even doing it? Are they my sort of more loyal and model customers or not? And that's why cohorts really help you understand from your acquisition point what your retention really looks like. And this is what a cohort chart would generally look like, and give you an idea of people that you acquired, let's say on the 1st of Feb. You'd see that you retained 100% of them on day 0, but only 40% of them were retained on the next day. You lost, and you were further only able to retain 29% on the day forward, and so on. So really just giving you an idea of everyone who you acquired on 1st of February versus 6th of February, what was the quality of that user base that you acquired? And there's a few different ways of looking at this as well. You can look at this as a function of nth day retention, which would tell you that, for example, from installing your app, it took exactly 2 days for the user to come back. And your nth day retention is going to give you an idea of users returning to the app exactly after X number of days. Or unbounded retention, which could tell you that these users were retained until the 7th day because we last saw them 7 days after and they're installed. So it tells you how how long have you retained a customer for? And first interaction, which really just answers the question of how long does it take for somebody to go from installation, for example, to making that first purchase or first transaction. Now, where these cohorts can really be helpful is if you are in the social media gaming industry, nth day retention is very important, because for you, it's important to make sure that you're becoming a habit to the user, right? So it's habit formation, which means that I need to be using the app on a daily basis. So nth day retention allows you to see that these users are coming back every day or every alternate day, and helps you peg your retention from that front. Or unbounded retention is something that for e-commerce and travel companies, it's important because I'm not buying something every day. I'm not traveling every single day, but it is important to know how long is the gap between my two purchases, between my two travels, for example. And for first occurrence for banking and e-commerce companies, again, it's an important way for you to know how long did that first occurrence even take, right? So that tells you if your onboarding process itself was efficient or not. Now that's cohort. So now we know your drop-off points, and we know from the point of acquisition, how is your retention really behaving for a certain set of users. Now, this is when you know a little bit about the actions that you want a user to take. But there's also a lot of unknowns there. A lot of times we don't know what a user is about to do. And that's where user path analysis comes in. Compared to funnels and even cohorts where you're defining the actions that you want a user to take, with user path analysis, you're really saying what was your desired action and trying to figure out what did users actually do before that desired action. This could answer questions like, what are my users doing right after uninstalling their app? Now, I want them to sign up, but are they really doing that sign up? And if not, what are they doing instead? It also answers the question of what did they do just before a purchase? Or for in a lot of cases, what did they do just before uninstalling the app? Now we want them to have added to cart and gone straight to purchase, but maybe they added to cart, browsed a little more, did price checks, and then come back to make that purchase. So it really allows you to answer the question of what before a purchase and what was the path between what you think is causing or giving you that desired action of a purchase to what's actually happening. I think me sending this push notification is going to get my users to purchase. But this user path analysis helps you answer if that hypothesis really is true or not. And let's show you an example of a user path analysis as well. Right now, I could look at my user path analysis to say, starting with installation. So I want to know what happens right after somebody installs the app, or ending with, in this case, order successful. And I could say, show me this for all of my users, or I want to see this only for my users whose last known city or country. I'll say country is one of these. I'll just say Indonesia. So for my users in Indonesia, what did they do just before they completed an order? And that's where the user path analysis tells you that this is our expected view of about 100%, really adding to cart and going to order successful. But what happened before that? To get to add to cart, you notice that a few people viewed product, a few people went straight from receiving a notification to adding to cart, some just opened the app, and some entered the app fresh. Going one step back again from product view, where are these users coming from? So few opened the app and went straight to viewing a product, some received notifications. In this case, we see a lot of them added to cart, viewed a product, and went to cart again. So maybe they were running price checks, etc. And some in this case have also been repeat orders, just the one person here. But yeah, this allows you to see that while I would have wanted install to go straight from install to add to open to product view to add to cart to order successful, it's actually only 5% of the flow that I'm expecting over here. So this allows you to really discover what your actual user path and user flow really is. And that's where user path analysis is really important. Now, at this point, you're going to see a questionnaire pop up on your screens. Please feel free to answer that while I continue on to the next step. Now, one of the things that user path really answers is what is your aha moment? And this is a functionality or a solution that can help you figure out uh, what has been the point at which you can say that, yeah, this is a retained customer. And we actually did a little bit of digging and figured out for some of the biggest brands out there what their aha moments have been. So for Slack, 2,000 messages being sent in a team is the point at which they say this is a retained user. For Netflix, it's season 2, episode 2, 3, or 4 is what they know you're never going back from. 10 friends in 7 days for Facebook, and user returning 1 day after sign up is how Zynga knows that this is a retained customer. So a combination of looking at your funnel drop analysis, a combination of looking at your cohorts and user path analysis can really help you find that aha moment, at which point you can say, yes, this is a retained customer for me. Now, that's how you know what you're doing. You've found your gaps, you've found your opportunities. Now, what comes next is how do you build that onboarding journey to improve? And a few things that you need to really look at and understand, and segmentation becomes a big part of how you ensure that your onboarding journey is being optimized. And to do that, it's important for you to understand your customer personas. Essentially, you need to be looking at the different type of people that you're interacting with, the content that your customers are consuming, the products that they're looking at. Are these discount seekers or big spenders? Uh, and also then start looking at how is the user behaving to notifications? How are they behaving to emails? How are they behaving to promos that you're giving them? What type of content are they interacting with? Do they want colorful emails coming in? Do they enjoy you telling them about the latest offers? And also understanding what stage of the life cycle are they at right now. Is this a new customer who's had no interaction with your brand ever before? Or is this an existing customer who's just come to your app for the first time, for example? If it is an existing customer, what their purchase history has been like, what products have they historically purchased, and have they been more of an offline user, a website user, or any other channel, really? And finally, of course, understanding the demographics of your customer base that you're targeting is very important. Their age, genders, which city or country are they living in, depending on industry. Also important to know, if you can, details around their salary or spending power, really. Because this segmentation is giving you the ability to find the right set of users and really personalize the experiences to them. And for that, I'm going to jump back into showing you how effectively you can do this. So ideally, you're looking at people who came to your app from a campaign name that maybe contains the words shoes promo. So now you know that you want to target people who've clicked on an ad that was talking about shoes. You further want to check what city they're in. So in this case, we're going to say city should either have been Jakarta or Singapore. Now, people from Jakarta or Singapore clicking on shoes promos who have, let's say, installed the application, and I'll say through here, right, quite recently. And further, you could go on to say you're looking at people who uh, should be between this particular date age range. So I'll say in between 22 and 28. So this is essentially helping you find the right set of users and make sure that your onboarding strategy is sort of customized for each user set, really. And that's where you can make sure that uh, you know discount hunters or existing customers versus new customers, people in different cities, different age groups, all have customized and rather more personalized experiences with your app. Now, an example of how Tokopedia has been doing some of this is quite interesting. So Tokopedia's of course, one of the most mature in the industry when it comes to user onboarding journeys, and they take a very straightforward approach to this. It's important for them to make sure that they're getting their users from installation to registration. So they've got campaigns and user journeys drafted around sending a notification, nudging users to register. Because the second someone registers, you've got their phone number, you've got their email, and now you've got more data points about this user and more channels to engage with this user on. So getting that registration is an important step. If they don't register, it's straight to start showing them ads to bring them back to the app. If they do register, the next step is how do we get them to add a product to cart? Because that's our next important step in getting them to that valuable interaction of first purchase. So we again start sending notifications to these users that have registered, talking about products that they might be interested in based on what we understand about the user. If they add to cart, great. If they don't, we're again trying different channels to bring them back to the app and talk to them about products that they might be interested in. We're then going to first purchase. So once you've added to cart, the next natural step is making sure that you purchase. But it's also a tricky step because cart abandonment has long been known to be an industry-wide issue. And transaction abandonment is, of course, something that exists in most industries today. So making sure that we're nudging users to make that first transaction again is something that Tokopedia does. So it's as simple as how do we get users from installation to that first purchase and nudging them along the way, something that Tokopedia has been doing quite well. Now, with that, I hope I've been able to conclude almost in time, but yeah, that is the quick rundown of how you could improve your onboarding experiences for your customers, the data that you should be looking at, and how do you optimize that customer experience. Now, you could, of course, go to our Growth Academy online, and there is a growth sort of a workshop available online that you can take and get your certificate as well. So yeah, I guess that's it for the day. But I'll go back to Tala and Sachin if both of you had anything else.
All right, thank you, Hastu. I think we've covered already a lot, and we've also we're actually a little over time here because we had such a wonderful discussion on the panel, and you've shared such great insights. Also, like on the best practices, and I'm just encouraging everyone who has attended, all the attendees here. If you get the time, there's an onboarding course that from the MoEngage Growth Academy. Actually, I took one of those courses as well. I haven't finished yet, and it's very interesting. So I'm encouraging everybody to check this out. And yeah, and you can also get the certificate from MoEngage. Right, so I think we can wrap it up. And I just want to thank everybody, all the attendees here for coming. Thank you for staying with us for the past hour. Thank you also to the panelists that are still here. Almer, Hastu, Jonathan, Erwin, thank you all. Vanessa had to leave. Thank you all for coming, and just watch out for our next announcements for our next Growth Masterclass event. Thank you, everyone. Bye. See you.
Thank you, everyone.